Welcome to the In My Opinion show. I'm your host, Ronald Barry Robinson. With us, we have a very spectacular panel. We have Mr. Henry Hatter.
Good evening, Ron.
We have Miss Sharon Cheatham.
Good evening.
We have Mr. Richard Dix Jr.
Good evening, Ron.
Welcome all to the In My Opinion show. Let's talk about brutality. Every man, woman, and child has a right to protect themselves. Law enforcement is killing and brutalizing our family members with immunity. This has to stop now. I was at a meeting, and without question, the majority present echoed the same concerns. I don't condone violence of any kind, but more and more we are witnessing the chickens coming home to roost. Citizens are saying, the cops are going to kill me anyway, so I'm going to use any means necessary I'm going to use any means necessary so that does not happen. I've said this before, and if you have guns, keep them. If you can buy more guns, buy them. Don't let the politicians or other officials take away your constitutional rights to bear arms and defend yourself, family, and your property. Mr. Hatter, what is your thoughts on this?
Well, I guess I might as well give you guys something to think about.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the incident rate is because I think over the years the incident rate should have declined. Okay? Now there's a baseline out there. We don't know whether this is significant. I know even one incident of really brutality is bad, and I'm against it. Okay? I would fight that to the end. But people will do these kind of things because they're police officers. Sometimes they do them for a legitimate reason. Sometimes they're afraid. And we have to take an investigation and go into the minds of the person who soberly beat somebody to death or whatever. He may have other issues. But before I could really give you an authoritative answer, I would have to, as many years as we've talked about police brutality, I would have to look at a baseline. If we had an incident rate of 25% in 1980, I'd like to know what that incident rate is today. It may be only 15%, or it may be 12%, or maybe 5%. Mm-hmm. We have made great strides, and you will never get rid of police brutality in its entirety. It's always going to be with us, just like race relations and like everything else. But what we want to do, and it's a challenge of the American people, to reduce the incident to manageable terms.
Sharon, what is your thoughts?
Well, I think that with videos, police videos on the cars now, I think that police have to be more cautious or think about how they apprehend a person and how they handle a situation, because a lot of the situations they go and investigate it and they see that some of the situations were handled wrong, and they get disciplined for it, even terminated for some of the beatings or some of the way they were handled. But I think that as long as people, sometimes people react and act wrongly to how can I say, make the policeman act the way that they do. Where they're fighting or taking off running or pulling out a gun or whatever to get the reaction from the police. So it could be, it has to be weighed, whatever. I think that when the police videos have helped tremendously with a lot of the investigations about brutality. And, you can go back and look at, and have the public view it and see how, what they think of it too.
Well, certainly, law enforcement have a right to protect themselves just
Right.
as well as just Joe citizen.
Right.
It's those times that these cops get overzealous.
Right.
Okay. And shoot people unnecessarily. We've
Right.
seen this invariably
Countless times.
every month. You
Right.
see headlines. Cop
Right.
kills so and so and
Right.
so and so. Without a lot of times. In many, should I say, in many cases, unnecessarily.
Right.
Okay, and their excuse is, well,
They felt threatened.
they felt threatened to take somebody's life, and that that's totally unacceptable. But all police cars don't have this, are not equipped with with the cameras and recorders and so forth. Mr. Dix, what is your thoughts?
Well, well, I agree with the panel on the overall assessment, but it's very important to point to the performance of police officers. Majority of them follow the law. Majority of the police officers are really hardworking and certainly follow the policies and procedures. And let me qualify, as a retired police officer, it's very important to recognize that when you have a reduction in the force, crime doesn't necessarily reduce. It oftentimes increase. And from a position of a police officer, you're taking multiple calls. And so when you're going from homes that have domestic violence, leaving a home, going to a shooting, a suicide, and by the way, we're not even discussing traffic stops. And this goes on first, second, third shift throughout the 24-hour cycle. But to say the least, there are some police officers who have acted brutally. And it's very important that we identify them. Oftentimes there's this desire to shoot their weapon or to use the tasers because this is part of the tools on their gun belt. But this can be a serious matter if it goes unchecked, because citizens are not going to continue to take that, and I think there could be some consequences behind that. So I believe that in retrospect, there is police brutality, but on the high end, most police officers are performing the job with really in a tough manner.
Mr. Chair, I think that's a sobering thought, coming from a professional police officer.
Yeah, but it's the ones that I'm concerned about, all right, that use being overworked, all right, underpaid, okay, sent out on multiple runs, if that's a good word, okay. That's their job, to protect the public,
Sure.
not abuse the citizens.
And that's a very important point, and that gives a segue to say that there's no excuse. But let me say that as a part of the duty, when you're chasing a suspect that has a weapon, and that's been identified through the dispatch that this person is armed, and once you get to that individual, here it is that person does not want to go to jail. They have been apprehended, and the interest is to move as far as they can away from the police. But under those circumstances, it becomes a struggle, and there at times the police is forced to use other measures to control the person of interest. And in this case, you could use mace, you could use your baton, you certainly can use your handcuffs. But when you're in a struggle, you're not thinking about what you're going to use. What you're trying to do is subdue the suspect. Unlike most citizens who may see the police or see an incident like a crime, we tend to go towards the danger while others run away from the danger. And so when you have situations where it could escalate, it could quickly get out of control, you have to take some measures, and sometimes that involves using tasers. That involves using your nightsticks, and unfortunately, with this 24-hour media cycle, individuals have been caught on camera when they've tried to subdue the suspect. Now, we probably haven't shown the suspect that have kicked the officer in the shin, have pulled one officer's hair, or even struck them on the shoulder before the media arrive, and this struggle is going on for some time, and then the media pretty much says, "Oh, look at this! You tell us, is it abuse? Is it too much force? Is it excessive force? And then as the citizens, we tend to grab that one clip and we make a informed choice. But let me say this, where abuse is definitely recognized. When we talk about the Armadillo case, the young African in New York, where they shoved that plunger. When you have that other young black who was shot 45 times. I mean, when we talk about excessive force, that's exactly what, or you have a trooper we were just speaking about who made a traffic stop on an ambulance who were carrying a patient and began to talk about yielding when this person was en route to the hospital to save a life. This is abuse, and we need to be careful about how we craft all of the actions of the police as brutality, because it can become dangerous, and we don't want to restrict the police.
Let me just say this on the behalf of Ron here. I do think that there are times that police do act with an overact, that they overstep their boundaries. And anytime a police is sent out on an incident, they are sent out with overwhelming force. They surround just one individual. They might send out 12 policemen with all kind of gear, stuff like that, just to apprehend this person. When you have all of that kind of gear, you don't necessarily need firearms.
Well, it all depends unless that person has a weapon of some kind.
Well,
A
you
knife,
still
gun.
have still have mace, and you have tear gas and all of that stuff.
Well, if you have a knife, and I think you're onto something there. If you have a weapon such as a knife, I believe that it is very difficult for a police officer to try and disarm that person with that weapon. And so there are several commands given. There's oftentimes directives, and unless that person has some type of mental challenge, it's believed that person should comply. And if they do not, it's easier for that one person with that knife to throw it and be very skillful, and that land right into someone's throat or chest. So in that case, there's going to be some directives, there's going to be some commands given, and from that position, if that person doesn't follow, it is probably likely that they're going to be absolutely, and I'd like to refer to it as disarmed, and or we want to stop the threat, and that happens, but. In many instances, there's some times when you can begin to have conversations with individuals once you take cover. But this is a huge topic, because I believe that there's been a number of incidents on the rise. I believe the police is going to be challenged much more. I believe that we need to increase the department personnel. I believe we need to look for specific individuals that can do the job. We can't just pick out county or out and have anyone coming in and they're going to control the urban population. It's difficult, because you need to have someone there who is from the very region that understands people or culture or a particular group. So,
Ron, may I just say about our lady panelist? Now, she was presenting views for a woman's view of how she sees an incident like brutality. And they like to have some strong feelings like that. But yet she says she's cautious, and you have to weigh it.
Well, anytime that the police, any of the decisions they make are split second. So, you thinking split second. I know if they could go back and review and do things over again, they would maybe do it a little different. But when you're doing something split second, you have to think,
Sure.
you just
Sure,
never
I
know
understand
how
that. Understand. We're going to change gears. People, I'm really pissed off. While millions of Americans suffer from lost wages, unemployment, downsizing, plant closings, jobs sent overseas or to South America, CEOs of many of those businesses rake in hundreds of millions of dollars. The economy may be crumbling, but corporate fat cats are still stuffing their pockets with the loot even as they lay off millions. Here is the story of just a few of these American greed mongers. Leslie Wexner, Limited Brands, a 71-year-old CEO of the Limited Stores, has a reputation as a philanthropist, but his goodwill apparently doesn't extend to his employees. Ohio's richest man padded his billions with $56 million last year, but still sent 400 of his workers packing, including 220 at the company's Columbus headquarters. Richard Fould, Lehman Brothers, a poster child for corporate greed. CEO Fould, 62, ran the storied $600 billion financial services firm into bankruptcy, affecting some 25,000 employees. Then Fould, who took in over $70 million last year, added insult to injury by selling his $13.5 million mansion in Florida to his wife for $100, hoping the move will protect him from being taken away in legal action. David C. Novak, Yum Brands, the 55-year-old CEO of the parent company of Taco Bell, gorged on nearly $55 million in compensation last year, but 10% of the workers at company headquarters, as well as mid-level managers representing hundreds of jobs, may have to go on to tamale diets after getting the axe. Aubrey K. McClendon, Chesapeake Energy. As a longtime CEO of the nation's biggest natural gas producer, 47-year-old McClendon took home $116 million last year, but he still couldn't find the funding to keep from dumping 215 employees, and more are facing the axe. Howard Schultz, Starbucks, the 50-year-old CEO of the Seattle-based coffee company, made $98.6 million while the company struggled with overexpansion and the faltering economy and cut 2,000 jobs last year. Another 1,000 were expected to go this year or later. Nicholas Chambria, General Dynamics, the aerospace and defense contractor, laid off 1,200 workers this month, but found plenty of funding to pay its CEO $60 million last year. If he had been fired instead, the company could have hired back the 1,200 workers at compensation averaging $50,000 apiece. Lawrence Ellison, Oracle Corp., the 63-year-old CEO of the software giant, earned a whopping $192 million over the past year in salary, bonuses, and stock gains, high above his 6-year annual average of a measly $71 million. Meanwhile, Oracle reportedly laid off 500 workers in its North American sales and consulting division. You know, this shit goes on and on and on and on and on and on. You know, this is an outrage. Richard, what is your thoughts?
Well, certainly we're in a culture of greed, and hopefully with this change in the administration, we can begin to address some of these issues. Obviously, the hedge fund managers weren't mentioned, but they are certainly one of the groups that have enjoyed this ride. Now, many of us talk about these corporations, these multilateral corporations, and the culture of greed, but what we forget is that this country strides on capitalism, and this is what it was built on. And when we talk about capitalism, we're talking about free trade, we're talking about free enterprise, but ultimately we have to conclude that this country was built on free labor. And when we talk about free labor, free enterprise, what comes to my mind is when my dad would tell me, there's nothing free. So when we think about that, what we must understand is that this culture of greed came about over a period of years at the expense of the little people. And there's going to be more and more layoffs. There's going to be more and more discharges, and more people are going to laugh. And corporations are getting smaller and smaller. And the result is that these CEOs are just going to take off the top, and they'd rather walk away from these businesses. And this is all what we call capitalism. And I'm not. This is the greatest country in the world. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I like who I am, but I believe we need to bring some fiscal discipline to the nation's capital. We need to be more fiscally conservative when it comes to these businesses. that seem to be running on fumes because what we're doing is rewarding failures. These individuals leaving Ivy League schools and they're running these multilateral corporations. And even when they're failing, they're being rewarded. And nowhere in the world should you be being rewarded for failure. So I believe that it must change. It's a shame. And maybe they'll pay on the other side of the aisle.
Henry, what is your opinion?
Well, I was listening to Mr. Dex here. He had a great point of view there. But I think that capitalism is a very good principle. It works. It built the country. It built much of the world's economy. And we need to recognize that. The greed is another component outside of the process. And I doubt whether anybody sitting around this table could have done anything different. If you were in one of these ceilings, you did what they do in Rome, because that's how you stay in power. But what happened is that many corporations became kingdoms within the United States under federal laws, under our laws, and everything that they did were permissible, and there were no regulations, no constraints, no reviews. It was completely laissez-faire. But that helped us all grow to be the country that we are today. But it also helped us to become the country with the greatest middle class for many, many years. It's unfortunate that we're losing that. We're being either rich and dwindling down to poor. And that's part of the decay of the system. And to bring the system back, and by the way, we're talking about then. We're talking about a thing of the past. It's no longer here now. There are people who believed in capitalism like I do, but who now have changed their opinions and said that we need regulation, we need oversight.
We do.
Companies use natural resources that belong to all of the people, and therefore they don't have the prerogative to use these resources to greed for wealth. They belong to the American people. The danger is generating a socialistic impression in this country, and we could not live with socialism. Our philosophy and our mission is not there. We still need to compete with each other. It's the competition that makes us who we are, and that's what capitalism has done.
I just want to follow up and excuse me, but when you say capitalism, it's very important. If I could take 10 Henry Hatters, and at birth,
The world only needs one.
right? If we just had one, but for the sake of the conversation, we had 10 Henrys at birth, and I took you into my custody for no cost, and I had you build houses, and you just gone home to this shack in the backyard that I built for you, and I'll feed you some of the scrappings off the table, and then you just keep doing this for 300 years, or I'll make sure you have some children so that they can keep up that work, and then I'll get the labor. I'll have you do the labor, and I'll get all this money, and I'll become the Barclays Bank, J.P. Morgan, and I'll take this billions that I've accumulated over this period, and my family's billions, and then I'll be one of the bankers. Now I'll finance the ships, and I'll finance all these to get some more things to get over here. But the whole thing is that the free labor that built this country have now enjoyed the freedoms. And in the name of capitalism, they're going to create a class of people to call middle class and give them some money and some businesses and allow them to learn some things and grow. And after a while, unless you treat other people like that, paying them less and less and take from them, you are not going to make money. So I like capitalism as long as I'm one of the ones who's making the money. But if I'm not making money, then it's not good for me. We have
There's
to.
the greed.
That's,
That's
there it
greed.
is, because
You
it used to
have
be service,
Yeah.
but it's no longer service. It's greed that's driving this economy.
Yeah, and we all have it. You just said that if I are not making my share, then I want my share.
Yeah.
And besides, we're talking about that was then. Things have changed. We got to look to the future and turn away from the past.
Well, this is what should happen to those involved in America's greed and financial scandals. China's high-tech death van where criminals are executed and then their organs are sold on the black market. Death will come soon to Mr. Yang, a corrupt local planning official with a taste for the high life. Yang solicited money from businessmen eager to expand in China's economic boom. Showering gifts on his mistress, known as Madame Tang, the unmarried official took more than $1 million in bribes from entrepreneurs waiting permission to build skyscrapers on land which had previously been protected from development. But Yang, a portly, bespectacled figure, was caught by the Chinese authorities during a purge on corrupt local officials last year. He confessed and was sentenced to death. China executed over 1,700 people last year, so one more death would hardly be remarkable. Disguised, the execution vehicle looks like a normal police van, but there will be nothing ordinary about Yang's death by lethal injection unless he wins an appeal. He will draw his final breath strapped inside a vehicle that has been especially developed to make executions more cost-effective and efficient. In chilling echoes of the gas wagon projected pioneered by the Nazis to slaughter criminals, the mentally ill, and Jews, this former member of the China's People Party will be handcuffed to a so-called humane bed and executed inside a gleaming new high-tech mobile death van. And one of the big three produces this death mobile. After trials of the mobile execution services were launched quietly 3 years ago, then hushed up to prevent an international row about the abuse of human rights before the Olympics last summer, these vehicles are now being deployed across China. The number of executions is expected to rise to a staggering 10,000 people this year. Maybe this is what the United States should, maybe they should adapt similar strategies, and all these thieves. Maybe that'll put a damper on this bullshit. You know what I mean? This is Ronald Barry Robinson and friends saying until next time, for the In My Opinion show, stay focused.